Hello, my name is Sid Roy. I'm the general manager for the Snow Edge Compute and Data Migration family of services. Uh, AWS Snow Edge Compute services enable our customers to capture, process, and move data from the rugged mobile DDIL edge. And today I've got Holger Mueller, VP of Constellation Research, joining us and having a discussion with me. Welcome,
Yeah,
Holger.
great to be here. Thank you, Sid. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about one of the most exciting things, which is the disconnected devices, which still exist in 2023 and actually do well. But we'll talk about that. Looking forward to it.
Thanks. So I just shared our perspectives on DDIL disconnected environments in an earlier session and would love to get your thoughts. Have you seen any interesting or innovative use cases where customers are deploying remote scenarios?
Yeah, it's super interesting because basically we see a renaissance of things being disconnected in the way that the device is getting better, rugged, more stable, more power independent, more gracefully to reconnect back to whatever mothership they might have. And we see interesting things in outer space, on the planet, on ships, in trains, and trucks, in devices and drills. I was in Switzerland earlier this week as they drill through the Alps. You want to collect metrics, performance data, and environment, which is very, very challenging as an example. Or all the way down, buried in the ground, we have operations in mines. I was in Denmark earlier this week or two, burying commercial pumps deep into intersections and then getting the data back from them when you bury them out 10 years later. Very interesting use cases from that perspective. So really a renaissance of is happening at the edge on the things.
Couldn't agree more, Holger. There's a lot of exciting and a lot of really new innovative edge cases coming up. Uh, so, what's driving these use cases? Are you seeing any interesting trends here?
Well, the driver is that the world is becoming digital. Software rules the world. If we can collect information, data, analyze it, and make things run better for mankind, to start on a very high level, that's a very important, interesting thing to do. And that reaches out to the edge, to the things, right? And we see innovations like which make it easier, like 5G, which is actually so much talk on the consumer side, but it's really the platform to enable thousands of edge devices thanks to the device, the internet connection, connectivity density, which 5G brings, which allows you really to deploy these without worrying to have to set up local networks, which you had to do before. So that the driver is allowed to have automation, autonomous capabilities in remote, rugged, disconnected locations on the planet, right? So it's pushing further the digital transformation, the digital enablement for enterprises to wherever they are doing business. They need to measure data for business. They need to control outcomes. That's the interesting driver here.
Interesting. And the data is probably created right there, and
Right.
it needs to be processed right there at the edge. And there's also the need for additional low latency for the
Right.
applications there. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
And
Uh,
why you're at the edge, right? There's something in the business and the value creation of an enterprise, why they have devices, machines, expensive things, navigating or being stationary in a non very favorable, non very typical environment. Nobody will build a data center for them there or can't build a data center there. And these devices, things which they measure, control, analyze, steer, need to every now and then get updates in terms of software, but also process their data and see the data. That's the key driver, right? Digital transformation all the way to the edge to the things.
Super. So, moving on, what is important for customers when they're considering hybrid cloud and edge solutions? What are the most common requirements here?
Yeah, it's a great question. We can separate it in two areas, right? First of all, the thing has to function wherever I want to send it, right? And there's very adverse situations in terms of temperature, humidity, power availability, connectivity, all the things which make these devices very rugged. But it has to be a confidence level that the device, the IoT thing will survive, can operate under these circumstances. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you do on the other part, which is this one is the hardware, the other one is the software. I have to be able to build software in an efficient, fast way. We know developers are hard to get. Developers have a hard time to learn new things. The exciting thing is now that the software stack, thanks to Moore's law, because devices becoming more powerful and advanced, also how we build things with APIs and containers, that the capabilities of these software assets that enterprises have built can be built by the same developers, can potentially also be moved from where they're using and functioning, have been tested in a more protected environment in the data center, can be moved to the edge and to the things, right? So it's the hardware and the software requirements which enterprises need to see that they can get there. It doesn't help them if the rugged device is there and they can't find developers, or it's too hard to build the code for that, right? So, and that's if you look at the software for a moment, that's the interesting maturation you can see for the IoT things developer, because like 5-6 years ago we had IoT developers because the devices were so strange and different and hard to do, right? Thinking all the way back, right, if you think of the Apollo program where code was built in assembler because it was the only way to do it and took years to build, right? Enterprises can't afford, maybe NASA still, but they still won't build thing assembler today too because it's way too hard to build. So then comes the question of making it affordable to build the software to do the good things software should do on these devices.
Nice. So uh, we also see the customers, they need to bring the cloud applications to the edge, but these applications, especially where Snow comes in, they're completely disconnected. So it's completely disconnected control plane and
Yeah.
data plane. So it's a very different, you are running AWS at the edge, but in disconnected modes. And we also see interesting, in addition to everything you said, the ruggedization and portability is also interesting, and because some of these workflows are mobile and they're constantly collecting data as they move, as the
Mhm.
as the collection endpoint is kind of moving around, let's say on a drone or a ship or a car. So interesting.
Yeah.
All
You're
right.
absolutely right,
So
right? The disconnected ability is very, very important here, right? Because you
yeah,
cannot ensure the connection the whole time. To gracefully recover from that is utmost important, right? You can't say, oh, our device, our things came back, let's shut everything down, let's reconnect them, let's analyze the data. You can't be in this batch synchronized saving mode, but it has to be happening automatically, gracefully. Absolutely right.
absolutely. So we also discussed edge initiated use case where
Mhm.
customers are architecting their application at the edge versus initiating in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the examples you can share here?
Yeah, that's super interesting because if you build and forget about the edge and IoT for a moment, right? If you build software under very challenging conditionings, with less hardware, with less connectivity, with less storage, you all of a sudden get to better code, right? And this better code is more frugal, needs less power, is more efficient, is tuned for that. And that's a huge asset for enterprise. And we talked about the software stack becoming the same between the cloud, the hybrid cloud, and the edge. This allows me to build things for the edge, which then can be reused in more favorable, more graceful conditions in a data center, as an example, but with the advantage of being very nimble, very lean, very efficient. We talk about cloud, not expensive for me to run because I come with this mentality of a very frugal, thin environment. And let's not forget, even in the connected data center world with backups, there can be disconnected situations, right? And we have this situation where there's data loss, which if you build with an IoT mindset, edge mindset, and if you're able to move the code assets from the edge to your data center, you will be able to not suffer from the consequence of a potential disconnection, which is very, very interesting for the 24/7 always on enterprise.
So yeah, interesting insights, Holger. So basically, design the app with all these constraints in mind to begin with, and with disconnectivity in mind, and then you can run it in any environment, inside a data center, in the cloud, and where they are. Yep, that's absolutely interesting insight.
Right.
All
And
right.
the good thing here is, right, there's no question asked about it. If you would be doing good software discipline, said, I want to spend another month to reduce the memory footprint of this code. I want to test it another 2 weeks to make sure there are no memory leaks in it. Typically in the easy connected environments, I was, we don't care over the IT ops will fix it, the customer will fix it.
Yeah.
If the thing is disconnected for a month and suffers memory leak after 1 week and it's not operating and it's crashing, not getting to the right place, you can't afford that, right? So there's no question, there's no debate. Shall we wait a little longer, make it better? No, you have to make it work under the difficult, let's call them even brutal conditions that we find on the edge. And then you have a code asset which is super nimble, very lean, very efficient to run in the connected, easier environments, which is great of value because you optimize it, you trimmed it to be perfectly attuned to difficult environment situations.
All right. All right. I'll move on to our last question here, Holger. what are the emerging technologies in the disconnected edge space?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And yeah, we don't live under a rock, Sid, right? So we know it's
Yeah.
the year of AI. At least the first half, maybe it's the second half too. I personally root for other technologies to take up and happen, but building and moving AI models to operate on the edge, reducing them potentially if they've been built for the luxuriously equipped cloud-connected environments, and then making them run nimble devices. Again, the same thing as they're relatively valid what we said before. If I manage to build my AI models on edge devices, I will never have to worry to run them in the hybrid cloud or in the regular cloud data center side. So the nimble part of that. So we'll see much more AI coming to the edge, being used at the edge, being even generated in certain limited constraints in the edge. But then there's other use cases. One I'm rooting for, the only technology which is holding up basically at the moment against AI is quantum. If you wouldn't have the whole AI things, would say, hey, it's a spring of quantum happening. And quantum, of course, is far away from being fully running in any place. But what is really happening, and it's interesting for the edge because we need the connectivity, is if you need the safe connection. There's ruggedized, smaller devices, reminds me of the handheld before the laptop, for providing quantum safe connections, which is a very important thing for certain, as you can guess, government, banking, security use cases. So quantum is coming to the edge faster than I would have expected, certainly. And then the interesting thing is really that due to the more commonality and these stacks becoming more compatible with each other, that we see much more things from DevOps scripts, IT ops scripts, other code assets, even database elements, queries coming available and being available on the edge, right? So that's a general trend happening on that side.
Like a combination of things, for example, where edge AI, inferencing, and private 5G enabling, instant connectivity is lighting up a whole new set of, use cases around safety, hazard detection, predictive analytics, and the like. Uh, Very exciting days ahead for us, Holger, and a super nice having you here for the discussion. And thank you.
Thanks for having me. Always great to talk about things at the edge.